Tradition. My brother was in high school, and a good guy, president of the student council, played soccer, got good grades, just, a nice guy. And he fell in love his senior year. The sad part was that the woman, the first time he's ever fallen in love, fell head over heels with her. However, the parents did not approve of him as this girl's boyfriend. And it devastated him, and she was always torn because she really wanted to date him, but her parents said no. And the reason why her parents did not want her to date my brother is because he wasn't Jewish, and she was Jewish. And that was very confusing to me as a child. I was much younger, and my mother explained it to me, and it really was helpful to me. She said, Harriet, part of every religion has their gifts. And one of the ways that Jewish tradition has survived, remember in the past week we were talking about it's such a small tribe. Why did this small tribe have such an impact on this in world history? She said one of the ways is that it stays together. They carry down their traditions, and if it starts diluting and you start marrying out more and more, that starts diluting the traditions, and the whole idea of a melting pot, you lose your sense of identity. And the Jewish religion, unlike Christianity and Islam to many degrees, Christianity and Islam go out and get new people to join in high numbers. And one thing we know in Christian churches, we love the mega churches. Judaism does not evangelize. It is not looking for converts. It takes their genetic history, their biological history very seriously, their ancestors. And so if you're going to convert, it's a very serious business, and they want to know that you really mean it. So they don't go out trying to make converts. So the way they continue on as a religion and as a culture is to marry within the religion, to carry on these traditions, to keep them full and to keep them rich. So what we hear about in the reading from Care of the Soul today, Thomas More, he was saying that Jung and Freud and Renaissance people, when they were trying to look for the meaning and the soulfulness in life, they would look to the past. And I think that's very interesting, because that's really what Judaism does. I love the sentence Houston Smith says in his chapter on Judaism: for the Jewish tradition, religion, history and holiness are inseparable. History and holiness are inseparable. Their history is infused in everything that they do. Their history of their past, of this Old Testament, of the Torah, moves through and as their daily life, what they are experiencing in the present tense. So often in our New Thought, New Age, spiritual progressive teachings, we're very big on being fully present in the now. Everything is new and fresh. I've talked in the past weeks. Spirit has no past precedent. We are free from all past limitations and habit patterns. We are free in every moment. The Spirit is revealing its new ideas and its new ways of being through and as us, freshly and uniquely in every moment. Every day is a unique day. And yet there's something about the soulfulness of carrying in the past, not allowing it to limit us, but carrying it in, that creates a soulfulness that we can't really describe always. I think of Eckhart Tolle, who I love. I love the power of now. But I recognized as I was practicing it that it was something I had a hard time sustaining because there was no culture or tradition around it. There was no soul to it. It was pure spirit. See, there's a difference. I've talked about this a long time ago, but it stays with me, the difference between spirit and soul. Spirit is instant, every moment, fully holy being itself. It doesn't come, it doesn't go. It is pure, infinite, oceanic intelligence that transcends all creation and yet is in all creation. It knows something immediately, it can transform something immediately. Soul is attached to form. Soul is spirit in form. Soul is, Thomas More uses the phrase, says it moves like molasses. Where spirit can change like that because it's not attached to anything, soul is attached. So if it wants to make a change, you're moving jobs, you're changing relationships, you're moving homes, whatever's happening, the soul's going to hold on a little bit tighter because it's connected with a form. Soul will be connected to form. That's our history. There's this connection. So our spiritual lives gain depth, gain richness through the soulfulness as well, that marriage of spirit and soul. We want both, to have both the spirit and the soul. So that's why I invited you today to think about your own soulful traditions, not just spirit, which is you can say spirit is new right here and right now, and you don't have any past. You're free from all past limitations. But another way to look at it is it's free, and yet it also includes all your past. It's free from the past, but it includes our past. So have you included your past history, and not just your immediate lifetime history, but your family's history? Do you have a sense of connection with the ancestors of your own biological background? Do you have a connection with spiritual teachers that you feel not just with this period of time, but in the past? Do you feel a sense of a connection with your spiritual teachers? That's where some deep richness comes. And I really love that he was saying that often just getting a new job or getting a new relationship there's still something missing. And that's what I see and feel that the Jewish tradition brings to us. I think sometimes we say, well, couldn't that past limit us? If we feel connected with it, if we appreciate it too much, then we get stuck in that attachment and we are not free to create new. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about an experience from my own life where I got to experience the beauty of tradition. My parents were concerned. I was in 11th grade, and they were concerned that I would be afraid to go off to college because I was so introverted. So they wanted me to go away for the summer between junior and senior year. So my dad wanted me to go to Andover, which is a boarding school, for 6 weeks for fun, just to see if I could be away from home. I did not want to go, mostly for the school part of it, but I just kicked and screamed. He made me apply. And you have to pick classes, like you have to pick a major and a minor. It was horrible. So I picked creative writing. I just thought, creative writing. We have a creative writing teacher here today. As my major and Spanish as my minor, and they unfortunately accepted me, so I had to go. Well, I wouldn't have chosen, but I had to go. That was parental authority. So we went to Virginia Beach as a family, and my dad and I cut our vacation short so he could drive me up to Massachusetts. So Andover's just outside Boston. And so we took 3 days. I don't think it takes 3 days to drive, but we just toured around a little. It was 3 days with my dad. I'm the youngest of four. That doesn't happen very often. And that trip was just the most extraordinary trip. It was just all family history, just things that I never knew about. I don't know if it's true. He said we were related to Stephen Hopkins. He said very tangentially, but we're related to Stephen Hopkins, who signed the Declaration of Independence from Rhode Island. He was a Quaker, and so if you see a painting of the Declaration of Independence, he's the only one wearing a hat, the Quaker hat. But mostly it started from the Civil War on. Amos Jackson, Julian's middle name is Jackson. Amos Jackson led a regiment of African-American soldiers. So his name is on a monument in D.C. with African-American legions. So he went through this history, some good, some bad. We may have a murderer in my background. You take the good and the bad. But I never heard most of these stories. I still can't remember most of them. But just to hear it all day, we were in the car driving, and then we'd be talking more, and it was just story after story. And I'll never forget when we arrived on the campus at Andover, it was a feeling I can't even conjure up. I felt so connected. I wasn't just Harriet. I was Harriet with this whole history, and it was a deep sense of belonging. I'm like, I belong. Not here at Andover, I just belong. Like there's some place on this world I belong. And that sense of belonging gave me such a sense of rootedness that I went on to have the best summer of my life. Those 6 weeks, I loved it. I loved the creative writing class. I loved the friends that I made. And I just felt this anchorness rather than it holding me back. What do they say? Give you roots to fly. Those roots, that tradition, that sense of deep belonging to generations upon generations helped me thrive in the present tense. It gave me strength. It gave me vitality. It gave me a sense of I'm supposed to be here. And I take that back to the Jewish tradition. That sense of connected with history. How connected do we feel with our history? Because I had many Jewish friends, and they felt very connected, and to imagine that their religious history and their genetic history were the same. Most of us have a lot of different religions or spiritual teachings, and they're separate maybe from our genetic history. If you grow up in a tradition where your religion and your family, there's some depth there, there's a rootedness there that I don't think it's hard to articulate and to explain, but when you start knowing it for yourself, you can feel the power of that connection, that belonging that goes for thousands of years. So when you're raised in a Jewish tradition, you're reading your history from thousands of years BC. I mean, how extraordinary that. And you say, that's my history. That's my history on this planet. That's the gift of tradition, and that's this incredible energy to preserve tradition, to preserve this sense of belonging. I have a friend, she's Jewish, and she works in a temple. And she does exactly what Houston Smith talks about, and I never made the connection until I read it. Whenever things are happening in her life, she always starts quoting the Bible, like these stories connecting her history with what's happening in the present tense. So in the one, I love, Gloria, in your prayer today, I love that, today is unique. Today is special because it's today. No day has ever happened like this day before. And what I experience with her is that exact feeling, which is, this is so miraculous. I love this day. And look how it's connected to my past. It's not either or, but both and. The roots give me belonging, but it also allows me to experience, I see the patterns from my past, but I also get to experience it in a whole new way. I see the patterns and I'm experiencing them in a whole new way in the present tense. That's a way of being that she just integrates in her life. Her past, her religious past, and her present are completely connected. History and holiness are inseparable. So I'm asking you, is history and holiness inseparable in your life? Do you have a sense of your own spiritual history that is inseparable with your past, not just this generation, but past generations, that is inseparable with your day today, with this morning? So that's the question we want to ask ourselves. Individually, who are my ancestors? Who are my biological ancestors? Who are my spiritual ancestors? I just found out something, maybe some of you already knew this last week. Is anyone familiar with Doreen Virtue? That sound good? Doreen Virtue? So she does like angel cards and tarot cards and psychic readings. And so I was only tangentially aware of her because she's in bookstores, metaphysical bookstores. Well, someone let me know last week that they were concerned or didn't understand because Doreen had an experience of Jesus, had a direct revelation of Jesus. I think it was like a year ago. I started watching a video to find, about this. So then Doreen has decided that Jesus is her way and that all her other things were wrong. The tarot card readings, the angel cards. So she's now denounced them and told all the people who followed her work to denounce them as evil. I actually understand that. I know it's a big change. I think the reason what happens is when people don't know how to follow Jesus and what they're told, so they're like, oh, I just had this experience of Jesus, where do I go? And they go to fundamentalist churches, and they're trying to figure out how to get close. I don't think she's going to stay there. I just think it's a stage of trying to figure out how do I get close to Jesus if it's not through a fundamentalist church, because it's not always clear. I know I certainly struggled with that as a child. Like, how do you get close? It's not, but anyway. But what's interesting to me is whatever her path, there are two things that I really liked about her shift. One is, don't go to intermediaries. You can have direct contact with God. And I'm thinking, yeah. That's a great thing that you're teaching. You don't need to go to angels. You don't need to go to mediums and channels. Find the presence within you. It's right there. And she's connected with history. There's something about that traditional feeling that when we're doing our spiritually progressive work can feel like it's not anchored. That's where I think we get the whole flaky moniker, is that because it's all really good and Pollyannish, but where is it anchored? Where are our roots? And so I remember starting to ask that of myself. Ken Wilber, who's also, who believes passionately in the traditions, was talking about know your roots, that there's too many people in the spiritual progressive world who don't know their roots. So I started asking, what are my roots? Christianity is clear, Judaism, some clear, but in this New Thought world, what are the New Thought worlds? So I put it on the minister's listserv. What are our roots? And we do have roots. This whole idea of, integrating. So for those of you who don't know, Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. What he was an integrator. He read philosophy, he read science, he read religions from all different cultures, countries, different world religions. And he started integrating them and saying, what are the universal truth principles that can be found in all of these? What are some truths? Ken Wilber does the exact same thing. I call them synthesizers. They're not the first ones to do it. Ernest Holmes was not the first one. It's a whole history of people who have done it. We have also, with the Unitarians, we both consider Ralph Waldo Emerson part of our heritage, who gathered information. Swedenborg in the 1700s. You go back to the early philosophers. For those of you who don't know, Ernest Holmes' favorite philosopher, the one he quotes the most, is Plotinus. Plotinus is the one who articulated our very first principle: the divine is in, through, and as all life, and yet never absorbed by it. Meaning it includes everything, but it's more than everything. It's called non-duality. Plotinus was a philosopher who articulated the philosophy of non-duality, and that's I was going to use a hip word, but I don't know what it is. I was going to say that's Holmes. Forget it. I know you know the word, but I can't think of it. It's his jive, or I don't. It's his jam. That was it. That's Holmes' jam. Non-duality. So there's this thing called the perennial philosophies about these universal truth principles that are alive in all the mystical traditions. This has a whole generational history. That's why Reverend Michael started calling it New Thought, Ancient Wisdom. So we recognize that it's both. We're always free in every moment to experience the new as in that has never been experienced before, and we're connected to this wonderful history, this ancient wisdom. We practice oneness. We are one with all these religions and teachings, so they're all part of our history. I was just thinking this morning, we are so part of the Jewish teaching right now, religion, because they were always being pushed around. They didn't have a home. I'm like, I'm resonating with that right now. I'm feeling one with the Jewish tradition. And that's not, it's funny, but there's truth to it, right? Because there's only one. To me, all of these teachings are part of our heritage. So I can learn from Paramahansa Yogananda. I can learn from Shunryu Suzuki and say, they're part of my home. They're part of who I am. And then there's also my own childhood home. I was raised Christian. My parents, just like Judaism has their heritage. I know many of you were raised in a Christian, not all of you, but were raised in a Christian teaching. Were both your parents raised in Christian teachings? Were their parents raised in Christian teachings? There is a heritage. Certainly, most of our New Thought leaders were raised in Christian homes. So there's also the heritage in the Christian religion, the Judeo-Christian religion. So we have all these different heritages, and to be conscious of them, to anchor us in them, actually sets us free to become more alive. And I've always felt that there's a feeling around it that I can never speak in words, but you know it when you feel it, that rootedness and that freedom all at once. It's energizing. The thing I feel is energized, not bogged down by baggage, but energized. And so, of course, we're here at our 5-year anniversary with the Lighthouse. And I was thinking, well, what's our roots? What's this community's roots? To me, we have two parents. If we're going to look at, we're children. 5-year-old child. And to me, that's Agape and Centers for Spiritual Living. So Agape tends to be more almost totally spiritual, but not religious. Teaches these mystical truths, but is really identified with no religious organization. It's its own entity. And then Centers for Spiritual Living is an organizational entity. It didn't want to be, but it against its will became one. And it's definitely anchored with Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes we teach his classes here. He's phenomenal. He was a synthesizer. He was always looking and wanting to learn from whoever was around him. Yes, he knew Yogananda. He met Einstein. He was always a psychology. He would have dinners with people at UCLA faculty. He was he was just infinitely curious and saying, how does this all work together? And from this, he has these principles that he teaches. And so we teach these principles, these universal truth principles here at Centers for Spiritual Living. That's the Centers for Spiritual Living part. And then we have Agape, which is more the Lighthouse part. We're a little flaky. No, I'm kidding. But they're both. I am both. And at the same time, I had to find out what that actually meant for me. It was finding my roots. So for those of you who don't know, I was a minister for Centers for Spiritual Living in different places in Virginia, Oakland Center. I was assistant minister. Then I was Unity of Tri-Valley, and there was times off in between. The hardest part I was struggling with was being a mom and a minister. I was just constantly going back and forth. How do I be a mom? How do I be a minister? I was missing Julian's birthday parties, and not his, but other kids. I just felt like I was missing out. So I would stop being a minister and be a mom for a while, but then I got to, we get called back to ministry. And then I was trying to figure out how to do church that wasn't Sunday, like spiritual community ministry. So we started these Wednesday night services. Jim Duthie was there. And Susan Duthie was there. Was anyone else at the Wednesday night services? And Jack, of course, is always with him, and Julian. So we did a few of the Wednesday night services at the Eagle place. What's it called? On the veteran, whatever, the Eagle place. It didn't really work out, but it was a try. And then I didn't have this like, oh, I got to start a Sunday service because I was always struggling with my whole mommy thing. But then someone, I can't even remember who it was, called me up and said, hey, Kay French. You don't know her. These two women got this place on 2nd Street, and they want to rent it out to different. Maybe it was you, Michelle, but I didn't know you very well. Teresa. Oh, maybe it was Teresa. Yeah. So someone called me and told me about this place, and maybe I want to check it out. I went over. For those of you who, this is 2nd Street, and Kay takes me upstairs to she goes, well, this is a yoga room, and we're using it for yoga classes, but we're also looking to rent it out on Sunday mornings. I'm just renting it to first come, first serve, whoever wants to show up. I mean, if you want to do it, just let me know. I came home that evening. I said, hey, Jack, you want to do Sunday services? He said, sure. This was the end of August. So he goes, yeah, I have a microphone and an amplifier. We can do Sunday service. It's a gig. So we show up, and the great thing is they had folding chairs, which is key, because Unity of Tri-Valley, when they would tell their origin story, they didn't have any chairs, so everyone had to bring their lawn chairs to service. We had folding chairs there, which was great. But it was used for yoga, so we had to set up. So Julian, we were the setup team every morning, week after week. Julian was there putting out the chairs. But even that first service, who was there first service? How awesome is that? So we have Jack, our Jim and Susan, Duthie, Wayne, Michelle, Emily. That's exciting, and Julian and Jack. And I don't even know how you all found out about it, because it just was a spontaneous, this was the end of August. We paid for September, and we started the second Sunday of September. The way it started sort of defines what I feel has been the feeling tone for the last 5 years, which is we're just sort of going along. As things show up, we handle them. So a year later, I think again it's in around August, we're at the Poorhouse, Jack's playing, and we're hanging out listening, and Beth and Jeff Fisher Beth Stiles, make it over to my table, and they're like, so we were talking, Harriet, and we're thinking maybe we need a board, a board of trustees. Sure, let's do a board of trustees. And that's pretty much how and so we've had these people who said yes to being on our board of trustees. Our purpose statement was created by our original board of trustees. If you are on our original board of trustees, can you please just stand for a second? Do you know the amount of work these people have done? Woo! Because Centers for Spiritual Living is an organization. There's a lot of paperwork that we had to do. There was phase 1 and phase 2, and you have to do stuff with the federal and the state with taxes. And Beth, our board president, just whipped us all into shape. Let's get this done. And it was a lot of work, and they did it. So we are an organization because of these board members. Patty took on all the money, which was a huge job, and you just thank you. And Jim was like, you can trust him. I mean, this guy, like clockwork, just you were, but always are, just this person who knew how to get things done, and we all trusted you completely. We just have the most incredible board. And Gloria, just there being secretary, keeping us all in line, sharing her perspectives all the time that help us. So we just have this, and then we have people starting up children's church. We had Karen. Do you remember Karen Nowak? Anyone here remember Karen Nowak? She just said she took on the children every single week. She never went to service. Every single Sunday she was with our kids. I want to be with the kids. It was until she had her own child, she was here every single Sunday. We've had just people who just show up. And so part of this is feeling the gratitude. And then we've had other people show up on the board. So people leave. Who else has been on the board? Not the originals, but who has served on the board. Stand up. We got to thank you, too. Woo! And Lynn Plouse might be joining us. But so this is exciting. Thank you for all of the work that each of you have done, Kathy and Cher and Therese and Kim and Diane, who reminded me to celebrate the 5th anniversary. She sent me a text. Do you think we should celebrate the 5th anniversary? I love the way she pokes. It's so great. So, and then we have these incredible practitioners, and we've gone through classes, and even that, the Agape Centers for Spiritual Living, I'm always sort of like, what are we? Who are we? So this 5 years has been really like this self-discovery. Who are we as a spiritual community? So what I've been doing, part of it is being connected with the past. Where are the places that I've been? What have I learned from them? Who have we been for the last 5 years? And this, actually, I was really grateful for your text, Diane, because it sort of anchored, like, this does mean something. And I didn't realize, I never thought I'd be here in 5 years. I don't think I thought about 5 years because I've moved around so much in my life that I never think that far ahead. And for the first time this past week, I thought, well, in 2023 is 5 years. Who do we want to be? It's much more intentional. Where this has been sort of, this first 5 years has been sort of going along, and as things arise, taking care of them. Now I'm thinking, well, I don't want to just keep going along for another 5 years. I want it to be intentional. Like, who are we going to be? Like, now I feel a little more solid. I feel a little more rooted. We've been here 5 years. We got something here. Let's thrive in it. And what does that thriving look like and feel like and sound like and taste like, and just really opening to these next 5 years and intentionally creating it, co-creating who we want to be as a spiritual community. And that felt so empowering to me because of these 5 years. So for all of you who've been coming for these different Sundays, for the 5 years, who have created this energy, a vortex of love, because at reading today, Corinthians, I was very clear that I wasn't sure what this community was, but I knew it had to be love. You could have anything else, but if it's not in love, it's not real. And so thank you for being that love. I know each and every one of you, and you all radiate that love and give from that love, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to all of you for shining it to each other, the care. When someone needs it, you step forward and you give and you share. And so I'm celebrating and giving thanks. I feel like I'm going through everybody, but I won't do that. It'll take forever for all the work that you've done. But we give thanks for the celebration of these 5 years and who we are becoming. That's what we also want to look at, is who.
And it's a deep gratitude for you, too, you and Jack, and all that you've brought here to us. And
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just another gig.
Seriously, I know many ministers where their marriages break up when they become ministers because it can take over, and my family's just joined me, and I'm so grateful. Every Sunday, so grateful, because it would make it horrible if you didn't want to be here. So thank you for participating and playing. And I'm excited for who we're becoming, that we have this wonderful 5 years beginning. I hope all of you are thinking about who you want to become in 5 years. We will be here in 5 years. I'm thinking more service out in the community, as well as more service here, a thriving youth program, a thriving music program. We have a pastoral care program, thriving practitioner body who are the healing arm of our church. And we are taking all of that wonderful energy, and we're expanding and deepening in love. Enlightenment is a big part of what I'm passionate about is waking up, not just conceptually, but actually waking up to our always already enlightened self. And from that place, wherever we are, going out and giving into the community out in the world. I love that next year's theme is spirituality in action. How can we live this love in action? How exciting is that? So, and our home groups growing and thriving, so that intimacy continues to deepen and widen in small groups as well as we grow bigger. You with me? Yeah. Thank you, God. Tradition. So we're not going to do, we did an exercise. I don't know, we're not going to do it, but does anyone remember that exercise? Wayne, do you remember it? The first exercise we did, the very first service, I had everybody get up and do. Do you remember, either of you? We did it again. Oh, maybe in the spiritual leadership, or we did it on Sunday? So I think maybe we will do it today, and we'll do it every anniversary. What? Next year, yeah, we'll do it every anniversary, the second Sunday. We're going to do it today, though, so I'm sorry for those of you who are who like to keep to yourselves, because you don't get to do that now. So if you don't like this, just don't come the second Sunday of next year. So I got this little exercise from when Julian played football as a young kid. There was a coach, and he always won. His teams always won, and we're always like, he seems to be doing what everyone else is doing. Why does your team win? And I went over and I asked him, I said, well, what is it that you do with your team? And he said, I make them commit to each other, because without that commitment, you won't go anywhere. That we need each other. Nobody's in this journey alone. So before even the first practice, he won't let them put on their jerseys until they do this exercise. He has them get up in 2 rows, and they had to do it to every person in the team, so they would go down. And to each person, and I won't make you do it to each person, but we're going to do it probably to 3 people this morning. So you say, I promise I will never quit on you, and I promise I will never let you quit. And what that means is I'm never going to quit letting you know who you really are. If you start going into illusion thinking that I'm not enough, that I'm a victim to my world, that I don't have choices, that I don't have options, that I have to suffer, I'm not going to let you stay there. I'm going to remind you who you really are. You are a beautiful and powerful, unique expression of the Divine One, and that all the beauty and goodness and prosperity and love is available to you right here and right now. I am not going to let you quit on yourself, and I won't quit on you. So the 2 things is, I promise I will never quit on you, and I promise to not let. What was it? And I promised, and I will not let. Say it again. I don't know why can't I spit it out? I will never let you quit, and I promise I will not quit on you. I will never let you quit. No, we're doing it this week. And people are like, next week. This is too scary. I'm sorry. I know this is a little confronting, but we're going to do it. So I'm going to ask you to stand, and we're going to do it to 3 people. All right, so now we're going to go into prayer. As we enter into prayer, we're going to start with love, and I want you to think of one person that you've met since you've come to the Lighthouse community where you feel love. And you didn't know them before you got here, but now you know them. And I want you to feel the gift that they've been in your life. Closing your eyes, just being with that one person that you did not know before you came here. And now if you can think of 2 or 3 people that you've met that you didn't know before you got here, but now you know them and they've blessed you, that their loving essence has blessed you in some way, that you have a love connection. Just think of 3 people that you didn't know before you got here. And if you're new here today, we're all your friends. 3 people whose relationship, because of their lives, they've changed you. You know a little bit more what love is because of these 3 people in your world. And if you can, for those of you who have been here longer, if you can think of 6 people, we'll go up to 10 people just allow your heart to expand and to expand, for those of you who've been here longer, of the people that you didn't know before you got here, but you know them now. And you know a little bit more what love is because of these people in your life. And feel that love in your heart. And that's this energy of, I will never let you forget who you really are. That's love. I will never quit in knowing who I really am. That's love. We are here to fulfill our highest potential, which is to be beings of love on every level and dimension of our self. We are here to fulfill love physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, in our work life, in our relationships, to allow love to permeate everything that we say, think, and do. We are here to be love, to radiate inwardly and outwardly love. And recognizing it is not I, but the love within us that does the work. It is the love that is transcendent, that transcends all time and space, that transcends all phenomena. This love that is absolute and unchanging, that is birthless and deathless, this love that has no beginning and no ending, this love that is absolutely free and unlimited in every single moment, infusing every atom and cell of creation, infusing every point in time and space with its oceanic, undescribable love. This is who we are. This is what we are living. This is who we are as individuals, uniquely expressing this love, and as a beautiful lighthouse community, uniquely expressing this love as never before. I am so grateful for these commitments shared and expressed, given and received here today. For it is love that is saying yes to itself. It is love that's saying yes to itself that is real, that is anchored in form, in earth, in time, and in space, but does not burden us, but sets us free. This commitment sets us free to be our fullness, to be our greatness. And so it is a deep and abiding joy that I give thanks for this infinite oceanic love that pervades every atom and cell of our being. And even as we open to this love, we notice if there's any parts of ourselves that we've rejected, that we've said no to, and we allow this love to embrace. For this love has no condition. It is unconditional. It says yes to all of who we are, even those imperfect places. We say yes, and we allow this love to permeate any aspect of this lighthouse community that may have been uncomfortable to us. We allow this infinite, oceanic, unconditional love to pervade all those places that feel uncomfortable. Love is right there. Love has no beginning and no ending and no limit. Love is everywhere, and we choose to see this oceanic love in everything that we say and we do. And as we hold this for our community, we hold this for all people. For all sentient life forms on this planet Earth, this love has no beginning and no end. It holds our environment in, through, and as love. It holds our animals and all the species in love, through, and as love, and all beings and all people in, through, and as love. There are no walls of religions, of philosophies. Those are human walls. In spirit, in love, there are no walls. And this is the place from which we live, move, and have our being. We are anchored on earth as it is in heaven, as pure, unconditional, unlimited love. And as this love, I invite us now to call forth anyone who's feeling that we know in our life, who is feeling separate from this love, who's feeling pain and suffering physically, emotionally, or mentally, financially, in any way. We call out their names and knowing that this loving vibration is even bringing healing to them even now. I invite you now to call out their names. Love hears its name being called. Deep calls unto deep, and deep answers deep. Healing is happening even now as we remember to remember who we already are. Pure, unconditional love. And I give thanks for this lighthouse community. I give thanks for the calling of Pure Spirit to bring us here to this moment through these 5 years, for every single person who has participated in creating this community what it is. And I give thanks for all those who are on their way to give their gifts, to give their ways of being, so that this community may more fully than ever before express the power and the presence of Pure Spirit on earth as it is in heaven. For all of this good and more than words could ever possibly say, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, infinite and eternal one. Thank you, God. Thank you, Pure Spirit. Thank you, love. In deep and abiding joy and everlasting peace, I release this word, and I invite all of you to join me now in saying, and so it is. Amen.